cloud lifter is like, it goes in between my mic and my audio interface, and it basically provides phantom power to my mic, so I don't have to jack the gain all the way up on my microphone. So that
that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, so I can get like a clearer sound without having to hear all like the buzzing and like every speck of dust floating around in the back of my room.
That's awesome. What is it called again?
It's a cloud lifter. It's they use it a lot in like music production and stuff too. So it's like pretty industry standard, especially for like a softer tone microphone that like what I use.
Yeah, you're so professional, dude.
Looks like I carried away here.
My guy has a cloud lifter. Dude, if you saw my setup, man, my setup is like, dude, it's actually hilarious. Like it's
I imagine your setup is like the scene in like any like like action movie where like they find the bad guy and there's just like wires exposed everywhere and like the lights are really dim. Like,
dude, I have like the Bin Laden setup where he's hiding from the US government and he can like barely do anything, and he has like, you know, couches. I have literally like couch cushions as a sound barrier, and I have a freaking towel, you know, on my desk to prevent bounce. There's something about my room that it's like it's built for echo and bounce. Like everything bounces in this room. I don't know. But yeah, it's like I've been hiding from someone forever, and I can't, you know, make a real studio or it'll fucking put me on the map and the feds will come get me.
Yeah, you're like the second act of a Law and Order episode. That's what it sounds like. We're getting dangerously close.
Yeah, man. Well, welcome everybody to the Glentendo Podcast. I'm Glentendo. This is a weekly Smash community / Nintendo Big Brain Galaxy Brain Conversation podcast. The show goes up every Thursday for supporters on Patreon. The show then becomes free to all the following Sunday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, and everywhere else that you get your podcasts. I got a lot to do today. So hosting the show today is returning champion Kyle Rios, Koopa. Koopa, what are we going to be talking about today? This whole operation is yours. Take it away, bro.
Wow, so much pressure on me. Well, I missed out on last week's conversation of the games of the quarantine. So I had some good ones. I had some fun variety that I've played whilst I've been inside. And gonna talk a little Mario Kart, gonna talk a little bit Super Smash Brothers. So we got a real we got some real comfort food of Glentendo content if you're familiar with what you and us adjacent do in these neck of the woods.
Damn, you did not disappoint. I was like, you know what? We're going to surprise you with this one. You're now the host of the show for all future episodes. The show is yours right now in this instant. It's like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. The factory's yours. It's yours. You got the golden ticket. And I was like, how is Kyle going to respond to that? Like, is he going to just like be like dumb-faced, like, huh? What? But you just took it. I love it.
If you pulled that on any other person that didn't host a podcast, they would probably defecate in their pants.
Yeah.
But you tossed me a softball and I crushed it. I do
you did, bro.
Players do. Hitters hit, baby.
If you can't impromptu just take over a podcast, how are you gonna take over your life? Anyone who would have failed that question, I would have been like, dude, this was a test and your whole life is just going to be in disarray now. Like, there's no way that you can handle life if you can't handle the Glentendo podcast.
You know, I've had to do so. One thing that 2020 and the pandemic took away from me is that last year I was in order to expand on my craft, I really wanted to start taking improv classes because a lot of my commentator colleagues who I talked to say that improv really helps with like your timing. It helps with your cadence, your breathing, projecting your voice, you know, all that stuff that comes with public speaking. And I've had to do a lot of that practice, you know, on my own. So, you know, listen, you can't listen. I was the vice president of the drama club, Glenn. You can't, you're going to tell me that improv. I laugh at improv. I eat improv for breakfast.
All I heard from that is you were the vice president. You weren't even the president, man. Like what?
Look, man, I had no shot. This guy was going to like pace. He was going to like a theater school. I didn't stand a chance.
He was a thespian. He was a top tier thespian.
As we call it in the industry. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny because I actually took an improv class once. A friend of mine, she was really about it, and then she had like a free. She was really nervous, and she was like, "Look, I can bring anyone for free for the first class. So do you want to come?" And I'm like, "Sure." So we go, and this is a girl who's like, she's an old friend of mine, but she has no. Even now, she has no aspirations to do any kind of performing or speaking or anything. I'm not really even sure why she wanted to do it in the first place, so she ended up doing really bad. And I was just there to like go with the flow. And I'd never done that before. And so we're doing this like there's like a big group of people. And we're all like, there's like an instructor and he's randomly yelling at the entire group, like, okay, now do this. And then now do that. And he's just pointing out, like, hey, you over there, you're doing it bad. Do it like this, or you're doing it bad, or you're not listening, or whatever. And then randomly, like, he picks on her like 3 times. Like, she's so nervous and she was just like, doing really poorly. And he had no idea that I came with this girl. So then he just points at me and goes, see that guy? He's got it down. He knows what he's doing. You got to look at that guy. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, this girl probably just wants to kill me now. Like, why did I bring this guy? I just randomly, like, I honestly was just not thinking. I was just like, yeah, let me just go through the motions. And I accidentally crushed it. And so now I look like a god to this random girl. And she was just like, oh my God, why did I bring you, man? That just like embarrassed me in front of everybody.
Yeah, I think for layman's terms, like for the Smash audience, it's like when you bring your like younger brother to like a Smash tournament and they outplace you.
Yeah.
and you have to drive that person home. It's like, damn, this feels awful.
You know, that kind of happened to me once in Smash. Dude, one time, so this was when Brawl came out, right? And I was in high school, and I remember our mutual friend Dugan, famous New Jersey Smash 4 Fox player. So me and him, we're about the same age, and so we were like, we got really into Brawl like the day it came out. Like, we did a few melee tournaments just like for people we knew in our school. It wasn't like real tournaments. It was just like whoever we knew at school that wanted to play, we would do it on a weekend. So then Brawl comes out, and when we do a tournament, and this is before I know anything about tier lists or how good characters are or any of that stuff. Maybe like a year into Brawl coming out, we do this first tournament, and I bring my brother, and he's younger than me, and I don't even remember who I lost to, but I got eliminated from the tournament, right? And grand finals is Dugan and my younger brother, and it goes to like game 5 last hit. And it was like Snake versus Toon Link, and it was so funny. Like, Dugan was using Toon Link and my brother was using Snake. And like, it was just hilarious because I'm like, dude, my brother plays this game, definitely plays it less than me. Why is he consistently doing better than me at this game? And then I come to find out later on, like now in retrospect, it's so obvious. Like, yeah, he was pretty good at the time, but it's also that I played the worst character in the game and I had no clue how bad Link was. Like, now that I understand Brawl from a competitive standpoint, dude, Link was the worst. He was like bottom 3. He was tied for worst in the game next to Ganon and Zelda. Meanwhile, Snake is like a top 10 character. You know what I mean? So it was just hilarious. That actually happened to me. I actually brought my brother to a tournament and he actually outplaced me, bro.
Yeah, that happened to me, just not with my brother. I went to a Brawl tournament with one of my friends, and I played a bad character. He played a much better character than me, and I was the one that drove, so I had to wait there all night. But the good news is it was like it was in a restaurant, so there was like a buffet like right next door to where the tournament was. So I picked out on some pretty good Colombian food. So it was a win-win at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's like I'm out of bracket. Thank God. Now I can go eat.
Yeah.
And speaking of which,
not gonna pick on a churrasco and then think about what I'd done.
yeah. Speaking of which, I need to ask you how you voted on a very pressing and urgent poll that I had on Twitter yesterday.
Ooh.
So yesterday, I went out to go get a sandwich. All right, at this local sandwich spot, really good place. I've been there a dozen times, but this time was a little different. I walk in and I notice there's like a new person there, right? And he takes my order and he makes the sandwich. And then when he hands me the sandwich, I realize he doesn't have gloves on. And then I looked and I remembered, like, as I was watching him make it, and it didn't occur to me until after the fact, he didn't have gloves on while he was making the sandwich. And then like I'm just thinking about this, and I'm like walking out of the store with the sandwich, and then I'm like, wait a second. When I walked in, I'm pretty sure that I saw him like he waved, he was very nice, and then he like wiped the sweat off his brow with his hands.
Oh no.
Yeah, so then like I pieced it all. It was like a Tarantino movie where like all the stuff came to me backwards. Like I found out the ending, right? The ending is this guy made me a sandwich. The middle
Right.
was I actually saw him make the sandwich without gloves on. Even though I was looking at my phone, I glanced at him. I didn't like process it in the moment. And then right when I walk out of the store and I'm looking at this sandwich, I realized that I also remember him wiping his brow with the sweat onto his hand. So I went on Twitter and I needed help from the Twitter audience. So I asked everybody, should I eat this sandwich or should I throw this sandwich away? 63% of the Twitter electorate voted that I should throw that sandwich away, that I should not engage with that sandwich in any way, shape, or form. Please tell me that you are not part of the freaking 37% of Twitter degenerates who thought I should eat this sandwich, bro.
So this poll escaped me, which is a shame because a lot of your polls are always very good and usually lead to at least an afternoon lunch break's worth of discourse, which is fantastic. But I no, I would have thrown that sandwich away. I think in the atmosphere that we live in now, I think people are a lot more like they're a lot more hyper aware of like some of the gross stuff that happens in food practices. Like I think long and hard about like, I go into restaurants and I never thought about if this guy's wearing a hairnet or if this guy's wearing gloves or if that person is may or may not be like contaminating my food without me even realizing it. And I would not have taken any chances with that. Like I get so annoyed with like the small little practices like that where like somebody's not wearing gloves, somebody's got their nose hanging out of their mask. Like,
Oh,
bro,
my
like
God.
bro, I once watched. I forget where I was. I like watched someone like like wipe their nose and then like I was like try to like hand me like an appetizer or something. I was like, no, that's disgusting. Like, what are you doing?
Dude, I have a worse version of that. So one time I was at a Smash tournament, and I promise you, I am not exaggerating a single part of this story. This shit was hilarious, bro. So I'm at a Smash tournament, right? And it was after the tournament, and like, there's only like a few people left in bracket. Most people had already left. And like, you know how after when the tournament's kind of like almost over, people kind of just start playing friendlies on all the setups. And so this one group wanted to do like a doubles match, and this guy, he didn't have a controller. So I'm just sitting on the side waiting for my friends to like finish up so we could leave. And we're all just hanging out, whatever, no rush. And I'm sitting there with my controller rolled up in my hands. And this dude comes up to me. I've never seen him before. Haven't seen him before or after. And he's like, hey, can I borrow your controller so I could just play this money match real quick? And I'm like, I see his friends waiting there and like they just need one more person. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. Here you go. Like normally I would never do that. Like my controller, I don't allow anyone to touch my controller. There's something weird and gross about giving someone your controller. But this story is why now I don't care who it is. It could be the president, and I'll be like, dude, you're not using my controller. It could be Joe Robinette Biden himself, and I would not give him my controller. So this dude, I give him the controller, right? He walks away and he's playing, and I'm just continuing my conversation. Like I like forgot, that I'm give this guy my controller. And then like a couple minutes go by and I look and I see them playing in the corner of the room. And I promise you this is true. This dude is holding the controller, right? And he's standing up. It's a crowded venue. People are playing friendlies. There's not a lot of chairs. He's standing up, holding my controller while playing. And every couple of seconds, he picks his nose while he's playing, dude. And I'm like, yo, like, are you kidding me, dude? Like, bro. So then I'm like watching this, and like maybe 5 minutes go by, and I'm just like, great. Now I gotta like say something when he gives me this controller back. He's like scratching his ass. Like he's doing all the gamer things. Like he looks like he has not showered in like 30 years. Like since he was born. Like his baby shower was the first time the only time he ever took a shower in his life. And so he comes out, he gives me the controller, and I'm like, bro. And he's like, huh? I'm like, bro. And I'm like, he doesn't know what I'm talking about. He's just like looking at me like, and I'm not, he's holding the controller, like dangling it in front of me, and I'm not grabbing it. And I'm like, dude, the entire time that you were playing, you were picking your nose while grabbing the controller. And then he was like, and he got really, really offended. And he was like, no, I wasn't. And I'm like, and I turned to my friend. I'm like, yo, dude, you, like, yes or no? And he's like, dude, you were literally digging for gold in your nose, man. Like, you struck oil with how far you went into your nose. It was disgusting, dude. And so he's like, all right, fine. And he just throws the controller in front of me, like on the floor, and leaves. And he got really offended. And I'm like, all right, he probably didn't know. He was like in the zone. And I guess that's something he does while he plays. Like he just has a tendency to pick his nose. But God, that was just so disgusting. I don't even remember how we got on this. Oh, yeah, the sandwich thing.
Yeah. I mean, listen, some people cross their legs. Some people like, I don't know, like hunch over when they're in the zone. I can't say I've ever been in the zone and thought, let me go, let me try to dig to China in my own face.
Dude, man.
That's so bad.
Dude, it's like, yeah, it was bad, dude. And it's just like some people just don't have that awareness where they like don't wear gloves. They're not good at putting their mask on. Like they're not good at any of that stuff. They're just like on autopilot when it comes to hygiene. But anyway, I think we grossed the audience out enough with these stupid stories. Um, but yeah, glad that the Twitter. Oh yeah, to answer the question, of course I didn't eat that sandwich. Just to finish this off, what I ended up doing was I was already like I pieced the whole thing together when I left the store. So like I didn't. I like someone was like, yo, you should have just asked him to remake it. And I was like, dude, I already left. Like I like was contemplating eating it and all these things were in my brain. And I was like, yeah, it's probably not a big deal. Like, and then I remembered everything else and I'm like, oh God, this is gross. So I didn't go in. I should have said something. I should have went back in. I didn't. And I was like, maybe I'll just give this to like a homeless person. And then I realized like, dude, if
That's even worse.
it's even worse because it's like, if you're not going to eat something, you shouldn't be giving it to someone else to eat. You know what I mean? Like I felt like that's just not right. So I ended up just throwing it away. Literally, it's in the wrapper. It was like 100% brand new. I just threw it in the garbage. And I was like, there's nothing else I could do. This money is just wasted. So that's how that story ended.
Yeah, that sucks. Especially if it's like a place you go to often and it's like a sandwich you like probably was it like a specialty sandwich or was it just like something standard?
It was a banh mi sandwich, bro.
Oh no.
I love banh mi sandwiches,
man.
bro.
That's tragic. That's rough.
God. And I go to that spot all the time because the spot that I used to go to got closed. I guess maybe during COVID they went under. So this was like my second choice. And I was like, oh, I guess I'll start going here now. So the first choice is gone. And this is why. The second choice doesn't cut it. I'm going to have to find another banh mi spot. But yeah, so speaking of Smash tournaments and all that stuff, I kind of wanted to get your opinion on this because, like, obviously, you know, you and I have, like, we know everyone in our local tri-state community, both as players and commentators, and we know the tournament organizers, and, like, unfortunately, we've become prominent figures in the community. Like, everyone in our our circles, they know Koopa and they know Glentendo and whatever. So I've actually been talking to a lot of people about this, especially, like, the newer players who, like, so I actually was talking to a kid who he just started going to locals at the beginning of 2020, and then everything just and so he was just starting to get into competitive Smash when everything went away. So one of the things that we've been talking about a lot is like now that again, this is something we talked about last episode where we talk about how we're kind of at the end of the quarantine. It's not 100%. Like you still have to wear your mask and we're still waiting to get to herd immunity and all that stuff. So it's not all over, but at least like the end is somewhere in sight and there is a path out. So that being said, like, what are your thoughts on like, what do you think is going to look like for us to go back to locals in any capacity? Maybe not to like 100% the way we were before, but like in your mind, is there like a path to going back to Smash tournaments again? You know what I mean? Like, what does that look like?
Right. So, not maybe in like our immediate area. I feel like things are definitely moving a little bit slower. I know in other parts of the world, like for better or for worse, have been running offline tournaments. I know that in states that have had, lesser COVID restrictions, people have been running tournaments, for longer than the past couple of months, which is a topic for another time. But I know since vaccines started becoming, more readily available, I've been kind of keeping my nose to the grindstone to see like what the path looks like for us when it does eventually get to that point. And I'm seeing a lot of tournament organizers echo a lot of the same sentiments. It's requiring vaccinations of those who are eligible to get it, requiring masks of everyone who are do attend these tournaments. Keeping the setups spaced apart, capping at a number where you're not packing too many people in the same room. And I think that's probably going to be, at least for like the general local, I think that's what it's going to look like. Pre-reg only, like no cash. Keep things as clean and sanitary as possible. So I don't think we're going to get back to a point where you can have expanded entry into things until herd immunity starts to become something closer rather than farther away. So I know like the vaccine stats last I checked, at least for adults in America, like 50% of all adults have at least like one shot of the vaccine. So the rollout's been good. Grant the hesitancy is still there, which I get it. I understand, but it's it'll eventually get to a point where I'm sure more people will realize that the superpowers are unfortunately not real with the vaccines, and they'll start uh doing the responsible thing and getting yourself medicated.
Yeah.
But I think, but I know a lot of tournament organizers have been very on the fence about demanding, requiring that you have to get a shot at the very least. So, but I think honestly, I don't see a path where you can run local safely right now, unless, you know, you can't run them safely with the amount of people you want to do it with unless everyone's vaccinated. And just to
Yeah.
kind of piggyback off of something that really quick, a format I think we're going to see a lot of, at least throughout the summer, and maybe earlier into the fall through the end of this year. Invitationals, I think, are going to be really, really popular. I know that Smash Summit Ultimate just got announced, with an online portion that will eventually feed into an in-person, portion. And I know that Melee also is doing the same thing. If you're not familiar with Beyond the Summit, they're a team of of content creators who put together like these. It's an invitational style tournament over the course of like 5 days. With fun side events, in person stuff, and most notably Super Smash Brothers. And there's a tournament, there's a qualification process, there's campaigning for like for people to get into Summit. It's a really interesting format of how they do things. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that, where people are good, your tournament organizers are going to look at like your the 16 or like 20 16-ish best players in your area, and you can get them all together in an isolated space. It's easier to control those people, and I feel like most people, at least from what I've seen, are on board of getting the vaccines
Right.
anyway.
Yeah.
So it'll make that sort of thing easier. But I think that's going to be like the phase one of getting back to locals. Whether nationals and stuff like that, that's probably not going to be until next year, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the invitational thing is that's actually, I didn't even think about that, but that actually makes a lot of sense. And that's like a really smart way to do it. Cause like you can obviously, if you just have 20 people and it's so much easier to verify all of that. And like, obviously, again, the prominent players in the community, like everyone kind of knows each other. So it's a lot, you can do a lot more things like just on trust and taking people's word for it. Like if I, for example, invited you to my invitational, I don't have to worry that you're going to like fake a vaccine card. You know what I mean? Because one of the things that I think is like, that sounds ridiculous, bro, but I've been thinking about it a lot recently. And like to bring back locals, right? If you do go the route of like, hey, everyone has to be vaccinated and provide proof of vaccination. In New York, it's actually easy because there's an app that the New York State government gives out that it's like, hey, if you want this on your phone, it's just an easy way to carry your proof of vaccination through an app. And that way you don't have to carry your card with you and it's easy, right? So Jersey doesn't have something like that yet. But because Jersey doesn't have something like that, it means that some people can really just like, there are people who might just fake their vaccine card to go to locals. And it's not that hard. Like, these cards are not hard to like make on Photoshop or make a template and then print it out. Like, there's nothing really that specific about the card, you know? And there are people who like do stupider things like than that. Like, I can't tell you how many online tournaments I've been to where some dude is lagging really hard. And when I do the lag test, they try to fake. So like, okay, when you do a lag test, dude, this happened multiple times. So when you're in the tournament, right, and you're on the website, you're in the little chat, and you're talking to the person that you're about to play in bracket. When you're like, okay, I'm going to do a lag test, it calls in a moderator into the chat, and the first thing the moderator does is go, okay, you guys have to go into this Discord channel, and you have to upload a picture of your Switch's main menu where it shows in the top right corner whether you're connected to a LAN adapter or connected to a Wi-Fi thing, right? I can't tell you how many people fake that image. There was one guy who was using when I Googled like Nintendo Switch, like LAN adapter main menu, like thing, the image he put in the chat was the first Google Images search thing that came up. And I'm like, bro, come on. Like, you're obviously faking it. And whenever you expose them for faking it, they just immediately leave. Like, they just leave you on red, and like, they just save face and just leave. Like, they just completely leave from the tournament and the chat. So people are stupid enough to like fake that. So when it comes to like, everyone really wants to go back to locals, and there are some people that we both know. There are more than a few people that I know who are anti-vaxxers that used to go to tournaments all the time. So people like that, it's a logistical issue. Like, if you're a tournament organizer, how do you do this in a way that is like, it's going to work and it makes sense? And then to your point, there's also like moral questions of like, can you really force people? Like, you technically you can, because I've been seeing this debate on Twitter a lot where people are like, you can't force me to get the vaccine. And it's like, yeah, I'm not, but this is my event.
You can't force them, but private businesses can.
Yeah, well, it's also like,
yeah, exactly.
It's also like, all right, well, no one's going to force you actually, but that means you can't force your way into their business without their rules and consent. So if I'm going to organize a tournament and the rules are that you need to be vaccinated, like, maybe it's not fair. Maybe you can make that argument, but at the end of the day, you have to abide by those rules. Otherwise, you can't go. And it's not a basic human right that anyone's denying to you. You know what I mean? Like, there are plenty of things that I guess maybe you can organize your own tournament where anyone who isn't vaccinated can go. But like, it does create this question of like, I don't really know what the roadmap looks like. You know what I mean? Like, I think what you're right, it's going to be smaller and invitational things until maybe next year. And the only other thought I have on this is that I think people are going to wait until we see how other industries respond and then just copy that. Like, when we see how like clubs and comedy venues and like other spaces where there's large public gatherings, when we see like those things happening again in a normal way and they become more commonplace, I think everyone's just going to see the first one of those things that works and goes, okay, I'm just going to copy that. Like, if it's providing that you have to show up and prove your vaccination, then we're going to do that. But yeah, it raises a lot of questions. We're constantly seeing conversations about this on Twitter, and there really isn't yet a tournament that has brought everything back yet. It's been really small stuff here and there, but there's no one way to do it yet. You know what I mean? Like, how do you do this?
I do think one of the worst decisions the CDC could have made is make the vaccine cards paper. Like, there had to have been some other option. Like you said, it is so easy. I get so much anxiety when people I know in real life post pictures of their uncensored vaccination card on the internet. I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, do you have any, like, I could trip in my local Staples and find like stationery for less than $5.
Yeah,
and I could easily like I could be you running around in the streets of New York City with my Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and nobody will know the difference. It's insane. But I agree. I think, like, yes, we can't enforce people getting the vaccines, but if that's what a tournament requires, if that's what, and people, I feel like, don't there's a lot of like misinformation about vaccines because, depending on how people are raised, there's a lot of misconceptions about vaccines. And, I'm in no means a professional in order to share that, but I've, again, done my research. There's tons of resources out there that, that can better educate you on, what a vaccine does, what a vaccine is, and how it affects your body and all that jazz. But like, if you want to like travel out of the country and, and do things, or I know certain reality shows like Survivor, like require you to be up to date on your vaccinations because you're literally leaving the country to like film a show for like 2 months. So like, other countries don't want you bringing disease into their, into their neck of the woods. So
Yeah, and
that's
that's the
something.
thing is like it's not a new thing. So, for example,
No.
if you went to public school, they you have to get certain vaccinations. There's a reason why, you and I both don't know anybody who died of polio. You know what I'm saying? Because people got vaccinated and it's required that you get vaccinated. And actually, one of the things that has happened in my neighborhood is that there's been, dude, this word is just funny to me. There's been an outbreak of measles. You know what I mean? Like that word is a word I've only associated with like, freaking like 1930s and like, like 100 years ago. And like,
It's like, crap, I got rubella again.
yeah.
Like,
So, and like, apparently it's because a lot of people haven't been, they've been anti-vax in the last couple of years. So now old things are coming back like measles, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I understand, like, again, make your own decision. And like, I'm the last person who would ever tell someone you need to do what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like what I'm an advocate for is you take information and you make your own decision. I'm just letting you know that, this is not new and that getting vaccinated, being vaccinated as a requirement to do things in big public areas, that's also not new. And that's part of the reason that we're still
yeah.
here. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, there was a friend of mine who, he's not necessarily an anti-vaxxer, but he did say that like, and he's a smasher and he can't wait to go back to smash tournaments. But one thing he told me was he really hopes that they don't have a requirement for the vaccine because he actually was homeschooled and he actually never got a vaccine before. And I'm like,
yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. So I'm like, and he's not one of those people that is like, the stereotypical anti-vaxxer conspiracy theorist guy. He genuinely was like, I've just never done this kind of stuff before. So for him, I'm like sympathetic to that, where I'm like, look, I try to just give him the right information so he can make the right decision. But like, I understand and I'm sympathetic to all sides of the argument. But at the end of the day, bro, there's only one way forward. This is a virus that is, spread in large public spaces, and Smash tournaments are the ideal breeding ground for this kind of stuff. Especially given that one of the memes of the Smash community, whether it's true or not, given my earlier story about the dude I lent the controller to, you can make up your own mind about this, but Hygiene has been a meme, like a joke in the Smash community. Like there's always like the bar of soap memes and stuff like that. So our community specifically needs to be, careful with this stuff. And it's like, we're kind of, I'm fully vaccinated. I'm very pro science. I'm very like, I'm a futurist
Yes,
in all things in life. Like I'm about moving forward and doing the best and like whatever. So for me, this isn't a problem, but like I urge you to, I don't know. I feel like the only way we're going to move forward is through the vaccine. There's really not a future in unvaccinated Smash tournaments, in my view. There's no way.
No, I agree. Listen, you don't even notice a microchip after the first like 3 days. It's fine. It's literally, it's so safe. It's fine.
My joke about that was like, dude, I hope these conspiracies are real because I can't wait to show Bill Gates my amiibo collection. It's like, I finally have friends. Bill, you there, Bill?
I got him right where I want him.
Are you there, Bill? Let's go to the store together, Bill. Are you seeing this?
Bill, should I get the whole wheat or the multigrain? What do you think?
Yeah.
Like,
send me some static on my left shoulder if you want me to go with whole wheat. Ping me some static, bro. So
Edward Snowden wishes, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So that's our general thoughts on that. I mean, again, just to sum everything up, getting vaccinated is the only way forward. Logistically, how tournament organizers figure out how to do that is going to be very difficult. And big tournaments, they are not on the horizon anytime soon. So for now, if you're a Smasher, I think the only thing you can look forward to is like the smaller events, invitationals, and probably just smaller locals
Yeah.
where you
Or
can
you can,
control the environment.
or you can safely play with your friends now. Like,
Yeah, that too.
listen, if the CDC says you can play and hang out in small gatherings inside without masks with your friends, then go hog wild just with the necessary amount of people. Like, it's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, you don't have to go to a tournament. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But moving on from that, we're gonna get to Kyle's game of the quarantine and game of the quarantine stuff in general. But the only bit of news that we had this week that I want to touch on for 2 seconds is that Mario Kart 8 is now the best-selling racing game of all time in the United States of America. Do you know
we're never getting Mario Kart 9.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know what the second, what was the best selling before Mario Kart 8?
Oh God. I'm gonna go. Racing games are like literally like the blindest of my blind spots. So,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's a Forza game.
Not even close. It is Mario Kart Wii.
I was gonna say that. Dang it! Oh, I'm so mad at myself.
Dude, it's like Mario Kart just dominates that genre. But technically, so here's one of the funny things about this. Mario Kart 8 is only number one if you combine the Wii U sales and the Switch sales. So it's Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. It's not just Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is at like 33 million on the Switch, and it sold like 10 million on the Wii U. No, it sold about like 8 million or something. And so that's just enough combined to put it over Mario Kart Wii. And just another fun fact, as astronomical as those numbers are, like 30, 40 million, that's less than half of Wii Sports. Dude,
Jesus
Wii
Christ.
Sports, let me just explain this for people because this is actually bonkers. So the best-selling games of all time are Minecraft, Tetris, Grand Theft Auto 5, and then Wii Sports, right? So in that order, right? And the funny thing about that is that all the games ahead of Wii Sports have been on a million consoles. Like they're literally available on everything. That's how Minecraft became number one because it's literally available on everything. Wii Sports is only on the Wii and it's number 4. Like that's unbelievable. Like imagine if they just put that game like on everything, it might be number 1. I don't know. Or maybe back in the heyday, probably not now, but yeah, that's just a little interesting sales trivia for you.
Wow. Yeah, Wii Sports is like a if you look at the stats of like a basketball player from like the 50s that like existed before like all like these crazy stats were like before the 3-point line was invented.
Yeah.
He only played for like one team, but like he's still like in like the top 10 of like every statistical category in the game. And it's just like, damn, like what if that guy was like what if that guy like played for like the Lakers or something?
It's like Will Chamberlain. Like he's just
exactly.
like
Yep.
he's like the first like 7-foot tall black dude to play in the NBA. And at the time, most of the players weren't black yet. So it was like a lot of just tall, really good white guys. And he was just destroying everybody. And it was like, okay, that was a different game back then. It was like he was the first modern player, but he's like 40 years early. So he's just like literally dunking on everybody. He looks like he's not even trying. He's just like, he gets the ball and he just like, the hoop is at eye level. He just like puts it in. It's so funny, dude.
It's wild. That's one hell of a Mount Rushmore. But
yeah,
like let's.
Do you actually like? So you were saying earlier, like you just said, how we're never getting Mario Kart 9. You know what I mean? Because like this is like, dude, this game is still going to sell more. Like this is like not even the finish line for this game. Do you want Mario Kart 9 though? Like, do you really want it? What do you actually think about that? Like, is this sad news that this game has been this successful because you want Mario Kart 9 and we feel like it's nowhere near coming if this game is still this successful?
I think it would be. I think it would be nice. Like we get it. It's one of those things where you don't want to think about a future past like Smash Ultimate right now because there's just so much content that you're like anything that comes after this is probably going to be a regression, and I don't know if I want to exist in that world or not. It's so like am I dying for Mario Kart 9? No, because I still think Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is a lot of fun. They pumped a lot of content into the game still, for a while after the game was released, and it still functioned. It's still fun to play. Like you can, the online is really really good, and I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, where do you like as a like you mentioned, you're a futurist where you want to move towards the future, but like, is there a future past Mario Kart 9 where they've already added like every single like entity into the Mario universe and
Yeah.
then some into a Mario Kart game? So I would rather them personally just release DLC tracks like once every 4 months or whatever. Like
Yeah.
give us more, like make it, or go balls to the wall and make Super Smash Kart. Like just make it happen. Like so either one of those two things are personally what I would prefer. But I don't
Yeah,
know, Mario
because
Kart 9 would be nice.
I'm just thinking about it, and I'm like, all right, well, to your point, like on paper, of course, I want another Mario Kart game, but I'm also like, without usually they do one per console because it's usually that like this game has aged so well. Like like you said, the online is great, the graphics are great, like it plays great. It's just an amazing game, and that's part of the reason why it's still selling so well now. Is like they really nailed it with this one. But then like a new one would require new ideas, and a lot of times they wait for a new console to kind of like figure out like, okay, this console gives us new ideas because it can do different things. And doing it on the Switch, I don't really know what a Mario Kart 9 would look like. I mean, I'm sure they could figure it out, you know what I mean, like they're doing a Splatoon 3 and everything. But then when I thought about it more, I'm like, okay, obviously I'm the biggest Mario Kart fan ever, I want more Mario Kart 100%. But then I thought about it, and I've said this before in another podcast where I was like, I actually think that this is a good opportunity for them. Take that team, right? And just let them make something completely different and new. Like the people, the team at Nintendo that makes Mario Kart is like they're gods. Like they make some of the best games ever. And
Right.
the Mario Kart games are unbelievably good. Like no one's even close to competing with them for that genre. And usually they're in this like really tough development cycle where it's like, okay, we have to make a new Mario Kart for the new Nintendo system, and then we have to make another one for the handheld. So ever since like Mario Kart on the Game Boy Advance, and then like the Double Dash, and then they had the Wii one and the 3DS one and the DS one, but whatever. Now they don't have that problem. It's one system, and they have an old game that they already made and already updated on the system, and it's selling unbelievably well. For the most part, no one has a problem with this game. You know what I mean? Like there isn't a lot of people who are like, forget this game, it's just a port. Most people are happy with this game the way it is. And so I would just take it as an opportunity to be like, yo, this is like maybe the first time in the series history where this team could be dedicated to doing something else, because like no one, the maybe we as like more hardcore Nintendo fans, like we want a new Mario Kart, but overall the thirst for Mario Kart, for their player base, for the people who bought a Switch, clearly based off the sales, they're more than happy with this right now. So it's like, yo, just use this time to make something crazy and new. Maybe not even a racing game. Like those Nintendo developers, like the EAD teams, if you look up like the divisions of like which team makes which games, dude, these Nintendo's one of the only developers that makes like a million different genres of games. You know what I mean? Like they have platformers, they have racing games, they have party games, they have Animal Crossing, they have Zelda, they have like all these different types of games. Whereas like Rockstar, they basically just make open world games. You know what I mean? Like before, they used to
Right.
maybe make like one or two other types of games, but for the most part, that's what they do. Um, so yeah, I would just love it if they were like, all right, we bought ourselves a decade of time. Like we bought ourselves so much time with porting an old Mario Kart onto the Switch that we can just make something crazy and different with this S tier talent that we have. Like, I don't know what that game would be. Again, I want something new. I want something that'll surprise me. I want something that is as unique as Mario Kart was when it first came out. You know what I mean? Like, no one was expecting a Mario racing game to be good. Try to like go back in time, right? Imagine you being a kid and like someone just like imagine Mario Kart didn't exist. And then someone went up to you and was like, "Hey Kyle, you know that great game Super Mario Brothers, the platformer?" And you're like, "Yeah, I love that game." Yeah, what if we made a racing version of that? That does not sound like a good idea, but they did it. You know what I mean? So I don't know what you think of that, but yeah, that's where I'm at with this. Just make something new.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like they've already kind of crossed that threshold once they added, Link and Animal Crossing characters
Yeah.
and F-Zero and everybody's favorite Nintendo franchise, Mercedes Benz,
Dude,
into the fray. But
can't believe
I mean,
that's real.
yeah, it's boy, that was a weird acid trip for sure. But it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where I agree with you. I don't think this team needs to do anything with this game. I still think it's still so much fun. Like whenever I pop in Mario Kart, I can't not have fun playing Mario Kart. Well, I'll take that back. I can definitely not have fun not playing Mario Kart, but it's one of
I
those
was about
things
to
where
say, man.
yeah,
Like
no,
there are definitely moments where I'm like, I need the home address of everyone who I'm playing as right now. Okay, I need the home address now.
I need to dox a group chat right now. No, listen, there's definitely some, I still have a lot of fun with this game. There's still so much replayability. There's certain games where like I buy them digitally because I know I'm going to play them like at any given time, like depending on the circumstances. Mario Kart and Super Smash Brothers have always been those games. Like those games are
Yeah.
always on standby. They're in every suitcase for every sleepover I've gone to as a kid. So it's definitely one of those things where I would love to see how they push this franchise even further. Like they already introduced zero gravity. It's like I feel like Mario Kart has the same. Oh my god! Glenn, I just had a glass shattering moment in my brain.
Oh,
Okay, listen.
I don't know if that's a good thing. Let's hear.
Listen. What Mario Kart is on as many is on as many installments as the Fast and the Furious franchise is. So there is only one way to go from here.
Oh
And
God, I think I know what you're gonna say.
they're going to go to space. They got to go to space, or they got to cross over with Jurassic Park. That's it.
That's hilarious.
And Nintendo, and Mario's all about the family. So I mean, it crosses over perfectly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, they did the anti-gravity stuff, like they did with Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS. They did like that's where they introduced like the hang glider and the underwater thing, and like the motorcycles came in Mario Kart Wii. Double Dash had the double mechanic, so they always have like something that makes it very unique from the last one. I just don't know what that would be for this new one. Obviously, I would have never predicted the stuff they did either. You know what I mean? So I guess we'll have to see. But yeah, for me, seeing that this game is like the best selling racing game ever now, which is funny. Like a lot of the Switch games are just like holding like insane records in their respective genres. Like Smash Brothers is the best selling fighting game ever, and then now this is the best selling racing game ever. I just want them to make something new. So, but of course, if they decide, if we, if 2 months from now we're watching the E3 Direct and they're like Mario Kart 9, like we don't even care if we, cannibalize our own sales, like we're doing this on the Switch, I'd be like, oh, awesome. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to complain. But yeah, so we're going to be moving on to our main topic. Kyle wasn't here last week to do his game of the quarantine. If you listen to last week's episode, you can hear me and R. Hungry talk about our games that dominated our quarantine life. Basically, the premise is that, like we said earlier, there's finally like a little more light at the end of the tunnel, and we're looking like we're coming out of the quarantine finally, thanks to like the vaccines and everything. So we had a discussion about like, okay, this past year of being on lockdown, what were the games that we played the most? What are our nominees for our overall game of quarantine? It was a great episode. I'll just let you listen to the episode if you want to find out what my choice was. But before we get to Kyle's, I want to read a show supporter, Mr. Nair, at Mr. Nair _SSB on Twitter. He wrote in and he sent over his nominees. So I want to read those real quick and why he chose the game that he chose. So his top 5 nominees were Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. That's on Switch and also on the Wii U. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Celeste. Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. And Pokemon White 2, which is an old DS Pokemon game. And his winner is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which was, I think it was probably like mine runner up maybe last week to not spoil it. But He wrote in and said, Breath of the Wild is my top 5 favorite games of all time and tied with Mario Odyssey for my favorite game on the Switch. Okay, so technically I played it a bit back in 2017 through 2018 when I got my Switch, but I was so overwhelmed and the game was so stressful. I was like, let me just go play Odyssey and relax, which is like 100%. Kyle's streaming Breath of the Wild for the past few weeks. So you can definitely attest to the fact that this game can be hella stressful, bro. Um, yeah. So then he goes on to say, let me just go play Odyssey and relax. And I was reluctant to try it again, even though I think it was a much better time for me to play it now than before. Some days I would just explore instead of progressing, and I had just as much fun doing so. The Guardian, as you've said in previous podcasts before, is one of the best designed enemies in video game history. The more I played, the more I loved it. I put 100 hours into the game and honestly wouldn't be surprised if I replayed it again someday in a few years or something. Breath of the Wild 2 and Pokemon Legends Arceus are now my most anticipated games for Nintendo right now. I really hope Breath of the Wild 2 comes out this year. So I can echo that same sentiment. Like we've talked about Breath of the Wild a lot on the show. This is like, again, Breath of the Wild is the protagonist of the Switch story. You know what I mean? Like there's no way to talk about the Switch. It feels like it's hard not to talk about Breath of the Wild. It's defined the entire Switch's like life. It was there at the beginning. We're eagerly anticipating Breath of the Wild 2. Like it's always going to come up. People are still playing this game, which is very rare for a Zelda game to be this big. And going back to what I said earlier about Mario Kart and Smash, this is the best selling Zelda game by like a huge landslide, and it's still selling really well. But yeah, this game, I echo all of his sentiments. It seems like a lot of people didn't love Breath of the Wild, maybe their first time playing it. Because I'm definitely one of those people where the second time when I played it during the quarantine, that's when I really, really became obsessed with it. But yeah, you're playing through it now. So how do you feel about this? And how do you feel about Guardians, bro? Do the Guardians give you a heart attack every time you hear that sound?
Yes, this game is horrifying. Literally, Breath of the Wild is one of the best horror games I've ever played, man.
That's
There
hype.
are every time. So I've been streaming this game for the past couple months, and that was a tall task for me to take on because this game is very long. But I wanted to experience it on, with my stream and audience and stuff. And the game is, now that I know what I'm doing, like now that I have a grasp of like how the game works, how the mechanics work, I'm at a point in the game where like I'm not necessarily terrified of most things. I just get like really jumpy when like stuff just pops out of the ground and like, whenever I hear like that Guardian music and like the laser beam lock onto me. But I agree. The game is magical. I love it so much. I contemplated putting it on my games of the quarantine, but I felt very guilty about doing that because I still have yet to beat it. So,
Nice.
so it's so that is something that all three of the games, well, two of the games out of my 3 lists are games that I've completed, quote unquote. You'll
Gotcha.
understand what I mean in a second. So
Yeah. So let's go into that. So first of all, what we did last week was before we even set our nominees, we just decided like, okay, what was the most played game for your quarantine? So starting, March of 2020 into the end of March this year. So what was your most played game? And obviously, if you that also can be nominated as one of your favorite if it was one of your favorite. But for me, like my most played game wasn't really. It was just a game I enjoyed a lot, but it wasn't in my overall game of the quarantine nominations. And one last disclaimer: obviously, we play Smash like way too much. Like our community, that's how we bond. We
yes,
play every night. So Smash is this. I don't know if it would it be your number one if it was included.
no,
Because
it would not be.
okay, because for me and Hungry, we had to DQ it, bro. Like that, we had to DQ it from the thing because like Smash is obviously the game I played the most last year. But it wouldn't have been as interesting to talk about it, so I gave it the crown, and then we moved on. So for you, what is it since it's not Smash?
So the game that I played the most during quarantine, and this is going to come either as a surprise or painfully obvious if you know who I am.
I really have no idea what to expect. I'm going to be honest with you. Like with Hungry, I feel like we talk about that stuff so often in our little group chat that I kind of had an idea of like what his nominees were going to be and what his overall games were going to be. But when it comes to you, I feel like you play a lot of games, but I'm not sure what you're playing. Like, I'm never sure what Kyle is playing. So I'm not, I honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know. I don't even have any faint idea what your number one most played is or your nominees. Like, I'm actually really excited to hear what you're gonna say.
The game that I log the most hours in over quarantine is Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Oh, I should have thought about that. Yeah, you did play that a lot.
Yeah, I put over 200 and plus hours into this game. And keep in mind, so this is what I meant by I beat 2 out of the 3 games that I played during quarantine that I really, really liked. This is the one that I meant. This is the one exception that I meant, because you can't really beat Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
It is so this game again hit at such the perfect time for everybody. It was a pop culture craze. Everybody, that one stretch of quarantine, I played Animal Crossing every day for at least like 4 or 5 hours for like 3 to 4 months, like straight. It's played at least one, for a long stretch of time every day. Now, this definitely added to my burnout of why I've like sparingly played the game since then. I've gone back like maybe like once or twice a month just to kind of check to make sure nothing's been set on fire. But the game it hit at such a perfect time. All of my friends were playing it. People that I hadn't talked to in years were playing it. It just felt like in a time where I couldn't really see anybody. I couldn't hang out with my friends. My girlfriend was actually away on with family for like a month and a half. So like I could, the one person that I would hang out with was just not around. So I spent a lot of nights hanging out in Discord chats, playing Animal Crossing with my friends. And I love Animal Crossing. It's a game that, I've never actually played an Animal Crossing game like in the time when it's popular. I've always kind of showed up to the party late, which thus affects my enjoyment of the game a bit. But, I caught in with everybody else. The game was great. I spent so many man hours into, making my island. I got a lot of my favorite villagers, from Animal Crossing games past. So like, I was amongst good, anthropomorphic animal company. And yeah, this is definitely my most played game of quarantine, and it is one of the 3 games I will nominate as one of my favorite games
Nice.
of the quarantine, because it's just so much fun. I understand that this type of game isn't for everybody, and in most instances it's not for me either. I'm not a huge life sims person, because especially with Animal Crossing, it can get so overwhelming because there's just so much customization that goes into it. But it's definitely I had so much fun just like kind of tapping into a creative part of my brain, to build an island. I made parking spots for Timmy and Tommy Nook.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I gave them parking spots. I gave them race car beds. Like,
oh my god!
I put so much time, so many man hours into this game, and it was a lot of fun. So that one stretch of quarantine where everybody and their mom was playing Animal Crossing is something I wish I could capture in a bottle and spread on every piece of food I eat for the rest of my life. It was just so much fun. So yeah, that is my game of the quarantine number 1 and my most played.
Nice. Yeah. Cause I actually, if we had to nominate, I think some people saw the title of the episode last week, and were, maybe they interpreted it as us talking about what was the game of the quarantine, not just for ourselves, but overall for most of the game industry. If we had to pick one, it would have to be Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing was, the thing is, Animal Crossing was already getting bigger and bigger with each game. Every time it would sell way better, and it was just catching on in a bigger and bigger way. But that game is really fun when you have 5 or 6 people that you're consistently playing with, and you're constantly trading stuff. That game is designed almost for that. I feel like that game is not as fun when you're just by yourself. So the fact that everyone was home and everyone was on lockdown and everyone could play it, it just was the perfect moment for that kind of game. So yeah, not surprised at all that you enjoyed that. As if R Hungry was here, he calls that game. R Hungry is not a fan of Animal Crossing, and he calls it the girlfriend game. It's this game is only fun if you're playing it with your girlfriend. And so I think if he was here right now, he would, in loving memory of R Hungry, rest in peace, he would be making fun of you right now for loving the girlfriend game. You'd be
Oh
like,
yeah.
Kyle is the girlfriend game man. You are the man of girlfriend games. So, yeah, Animal Crossing. I actually last week I talk about it a little bit in my game of the quarantine thing, and maybe in not so positive a light, but you guys could check that out in the other episode. And so that's your first nominee and your most played. What are your two other nominees? And then I'm gonna try to guess out of the three which one's your number one pick before you reveal your official game of the quarantine. So what's your second nominee?
So the second nominee is a game I actually played alongside Animal Crossing, which was fun because, eventually you reach a point in Animal Crossing where you can't do anything for the day. So I needed to pick up something else to play alongside this game. This is a game that I actually had bought like at the end of 2019 and had sparingly played because I had zero time. But once quarantine hit, I had a lot of downtime and I got to truly sit down and enjoy this game. It was so much fun. My number 2 game of the quarantine, Luigi's Mansion 3.
Oh, that's sick. Okay. I have to say, I love Luigi's Mansion, the first one, and I really like the second one a lot. And I had been waiting for Luigi's Mansion 3 forever. It came out, I bought it, but I just haven't been able to play it yet. Like I'm waiting for me to want to play that type of game. But I can't wait. Everyone tells me, dude, everyone has told me game is incredible. Like this is like a very universally praised game. So that's awesome. And did
Yeah,
you play it co-op by any chance, or did you
I
play it
did
by
not.
yourself?
No, I
Okay.
played it by myself, and I had a lot of fun with it. So, and I'm exactly in the same boat as you. I needed to be in a mood to play this sort of game because I love Luigi's Mansion. I loved the first game, and I agreed. The second one had its issues, but I liked it. I thought it was fun. And Luigi's Mansion 3 is a perfect marriage between the vast exploratory areas of the first game and the mission sort of breakdownish style of the second game. It has a really great uh, marriage of the two. The game looks beautiful first and foremost. The level locales are a lot of fun. I love the way that basically you're playing Luigi in like a haunted hotel, it's more or less, and it follows the same plot of every Luigi's Mansion game. Mario gets kidnapped by King Boo, and you have to traverse whatever haunted areas you're exploring to get him back. I love the introduction of the new character. I love the introduction of Guigi. It made platforming very interesting. The puzzles were a lot of fun. And again, this game it looks absolutely gorgeous. There's once there's a certain point in the game where you have to keep traveling upwards towards like the penthouse suite of this hotel. And you go through like the typical locales in like any sort of hotel sort of game. There's the lobby, there's the kitchen, there's the various rooms. But then there's like levels that are like absolutely bonkers. And I'm just like, why is this a hotel room? Like, where am I? Am I in Las Vegas? Like,
Yeah.
the level design is great. The boss fights are a lot of fun. The puzzles are very interesting and engaging. Um, and the game was just so much fun. I was definitely in a mood for puzzles. It paid off in spades, and the game's really funny. Like some of the gags are very very enjoyable, and I had so much fun with this game. I was very pleasantly surprised. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it because as much as I like Dark Moon, it still left kind of like a sour taste in my mouth. But this game was absolutely refreshing and so much fun to go back and play. So
Yeah, dude, I can't wait to like maybe now I'm in after this conversation I'm actually a little more inspired to like go play it. So maybe I'll play it after I finish the current slew of games that I have. But man, dude, this game also I've tried not to look at too much of it because again, I really want to just like savor all of it for when I play it myself. But man, the screenshots, this is another game kind of like Mario Kart 8 where I'm like, dude, this game looks perfect. Like this is a game where all the footage I've seen, if this was on like a PS5 or a PS4, I can't really, maybe it would look a million times better, but I can't see it. Like I can't, usually with certain games, right? Like even something like Smash or like Breath of the Wild, like games that look great, you could kind of see like, okay, this area right here would probably look a lot better, or like this effect that they're going for over here would look better on a more powerful console. Luigi's Mansion 3 looks perfect. it looks so good. The character models look amazing. Everything is like that stylized look. It looks awesome. And the Guiji thing, what a friend of mine told, the reason I asked if you had played it co-op is because a friend of mine, he like never played a game in the series, so this was his first one, and you could play the entire game like co-op through one player being Luigi and one player being Luigi, and they're actually different. So it's not just like two people doing the same thing. You need to
Mm-hmm.
work together to actually solve these puzzles. And Luigi could like, he's made out of jello, so he kind of could just like go through like bars and stuff, like things that us mortals in the physical world can't do.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, that's awesome. I actually had no idea. I don't think again, like I don't remember you mentioning it. So I had no idea you played this game. But that's awesome. You finished it? Like you beat the
Yep.
game?
Yep. I
Nice.
beat it, and it was a lot of fun. The game was it was so good, and I'm pretty sure I'm pretty mad at myself because I know at the end of every Luigi's Mansion game, there's like a certain money threshold you have to hit to like get like the good quote unquote ending, and I think I was like maybe a couple $1,000s short of doing that. So I was definitely
Yeah.
kicking myself upside the head
That's one of the
for
cool
that
things
one.
about the Luigi's Mansion games is that like obviously Mario games have like coins and stuff, right? But the Luigi's Mansion games, they have like money everywhere because you have this vacuum cleaner. So you'll open up like a drawer and literally like a cartoon, like Scrooge McDuck's life savings like pops out of a drawer and like you're just into this ocean of paper dollar bills and stuff and you just suck it all up with the vacuum. So like that's another cool thing that gives it a lot of personality is like you get real money. Like there's so much money everywhere. It's just flying around. Dude, that game, that series is really slept on. Because obviously Luigi's Mansion like came out as a GameCube launch exclusive, and that was their Mario game. For it's like, oh, we have a new console out, guys, and it's like, oh, is it gonna have like a Mario 64? Like, is that the launch game? It's like, no, it's gonna be Luigi's Mansion. Like I love that weird
Yep.
Nintendo stuff. And again, just to tie this back to what we were saying earlier, you know, with the Mario Kart team, it's like, look, Luigi's Mansion is a product of like the crazy things you would never think Nintendo would make. I want more of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And is your third game before you tell me what it is? Is it a Switch game?
It is. Yeah.
Oh
It's
my
primarily
god,
all my games are Switch games. Yep.
dude, so we make fun of you for being a freaking Sonic lover and having a little speed fetish. Any character that moves fast, Koopa's obsessed with. And I think like out of my nominees last week, like 3 out of the 5 were Switch games. And like for Hungry, I think there was only like 1 or 2 Switch games on his whole list, and his final choice wasn't a Switch game at all. Actually, it's going to be later, but anyway, you're doing this podcast service by bringing this
Yeah.
full Nintendo lineup to your nominations, bro.
Listen, I'll be totally honest. I bought one game for my PS4 during quarantine, and I hated it. So
Yeah,
I will not be. Yeah, I will not be nominating Square Enix's The Avengers. That game was so boring,
Ooh,
but
dude. You couldn't pay me to play that. That game,
yeah, that
looked
game
like,
was not. Yeah, that game overstayed its welcome very quickly.
dude. That
So,
game looked so bad, bro. And like, oh, we didn't have to get into that, but
yeah.
anyway,
Yeah, so
um,
I will list quickly fire off a couple of honorable mentions for games that I thought about
okay.
for a split second. There was games like Clubhouse 51, which was just like random fun. I like playing board games.
Wait,
So
is
that
that
kind of
the set of like little like clubhouse games?
Yep, yeah, like the board games
Yeah,
and stuff.
that was on
Yeah.
Switch, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that game was fun. I enjoyed that a lot. Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake. I wasn't, I knew I would like that game because Link's Awakening is one of my favorite Zelda games. Game looks really cute. The game and it still holds up very well as a remake. It was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed myself with that one. And another honorable mention is Sonic Forces because I played it twice, and we're just gonna leave it at that. So we're gonna move right past that one.
I'm just glad that's not your nominee. Jeez.
No. I
Oh
know
my
better than
God.
that. However, this is a game I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it. This franchise, like Sonic, has let me down a number of times in the past, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to trust it again. But lo and behold, I think this game was a lot of fun. And the last game that I'm nominating as my game of the quarantine, Paper Mario: The Origami King.
Let's go.
Listen, I understand. I will die on this hill. I understand that this game is incredibly divisive. People have either loved it and they've either like they can't stand the sight of it. But as a pained Paper Mario fan, this game was such a refreshing breath of fresh air and a step in a very like needed like good direction. The last two Paper Mario games have been I can't speak for Color Splash because I haven't played it. But from what I understand, it's not much better than Sticker Star, which was one of the worst games I've ever played. This game is so refreshing. It's a great adventure game as a Paper Mario game. It goes back to sort of what Super Paper Mario was, where it's like a side-scrolling like platforming adventure game, kind of sort of. But there's great story beats. I think the paper motif is actually a lot of fun in this game, where everybody's just origami. There's great. The writing is great, as is in most Paper Mario games, which is where the franchise makes its money. The game has to be snappy and funny, and it is that. The music is great. The characters they introduce are a lot of fun. There's moments in this game, Glenn, where I legitimately had tears in my eyes. This game
That's
got
awesome.
me, and like emotionally in some places. I understand that there's this. Was it a perfect
tears
game?
as in like it was a sentimental sad moment, or tears as in this is so funny that I'm laughing with tears in my eyes?
Both.
Oh, okay.
I laughed so hard I cried, and there's moments that like it took me on an emotional journey that I didn't know that I needed from a Paper Mario game. Was it perfect? No. The battle system is atrocious. I'm not a huge fan of it. Some of the boss fights drag near the end. But this game was just it was so refreshing. I liked it a lot. I am excited for what comes next from the Paper Mario franchise for the first time in almost 10 years, which is amazing. So this game definitely is slept on. I will die on the hill that Paper Mario the Origami King was a good game. Gons at me right now. I want the smoke. I want the vaccinated smoke.
So it's interesting you mentioned that, because again, I had no idea you were going to say that. I've been planning for a little while now. I've just been trying to like organize my thoughts on this. I really want to have a entire podcast, or at least like a significant chunk of a podcast episode, where we just talk about the whole fiasco behind Paper Mario, like in general the series, because everything you said 100%, except one of the things that you said early on when you just now is like this game is divisive, right? And judging by our circle of people that we talk to and hang out with, that's exactly how it feels. But is it really that divisive? Like when you look outside of our group of like people who love Paper Mario, I actually don't think that it's that divisive of a game, and I actually think it's almost universally praised. Is it like, game of the year? No, but it's pretty universally praised. And so your opinion that you really enjoyed it is actually not as uncommon. But there's this weird thing about Paper Mario as a series that like in our group of like, it's our age group of people, there's such a divide and it's a divide that I've never seen for any other series in history. Obviously, we're not going to get into a lot of detail because like we only have so much time, and I really want to have that conversation in like a lot of detail at some point. But yeah, since you
Sure.
brought it up, we're going to do that at some point. Maybe not like the next episode, but coming up soon. All of the smoke is going to be had regarding Paper Mario, because dude, some of this stuff it honestly pisses me off so bad. But regardless, that's an interesting game of the quarantine. I keep forgetting that game came out again, like in the middle of quarantine. I think
Yeah,
it
it
came out
came out
in
in
May,
July.
right?
It came
Yeah,
out in July.
it was one of those games that
Sure.
like they just announced out of nowhere. Like there was no E3 obviously, but it was not in a direct. It was like they literally announced this game on Twitter one day in the middle of the quarantine.
Yeah, it happened at like 5 o'clock on a Thursday, but I'm pretty sure this game was supposed to be announced alongside some of the Mario 25 stuff or Mario 35 stuff, if I remember reading that correctly, or it's supposed to be part of the E3 conversation. Either way, this game kind of just fell into our lap, and it was great. I truly did enjoy this game a lot.
So, okay, so we have the nominees for Koopa's Game of the Quarantine are Animal Crossing New Horizons, Luigi's Mansion 3, and Paper Mario the Origami King. Now, I'm going to try to predict which one is number one for you. It's actually hard because I feel like you really sold us on all three of those. Like, I feel like what you said about all three of them was really positive. So it's hard for me to say, like, which one did he really like more? You know what? I think Luigi's Mansion is the easy one to be out. I think that, again, you sounded pretty positive on that, but I feel like Animal Crossing was a way bigger moment in terms of like the whole quarantine. And I think Paper Mario being really funny is more something that you're into. So I'm gonna go with Paper Mario. I'm gonna rank choice. I think Paper Mario is your game of the quarantine. I think Animal Crossing is a very close second, and I think Luigi's Mansion was in third place. Am I correct?
That is a negative Ghost Rider. So if you can edit in the buzzer noise here, you unfortunately were incorrect. But you did. All you had to do was flip Paper Mario or Animal Crossing, and the big reason for that is because like the end game of Paper Mario does kind of drag a bit, and the battle system is like so. It's so like easily the worst part of the game that it definitely kind of was like. I felt the game drag at certain points. And even when Animal Crossing was boring, there was still stuff for me to do. I think why I like Animal Crossing so much as my game of the quarantine is because of that like community like aspect of it. Like it's no surprise. I've seen you once in like almost the last year, Glenn. Like I haven't seen some of my friends in over a year. And it was one of those things where I felt like close with my friends, but without being in the same room as them. Like we celebrated birthdays with my friends on their islands. We I spent just days like hanging out with my friends, just like, swapping fruit and like, hey, I got this furniture. Hey, I got that. Like I got flowers. Yo, who's got the good turnip prices right now? Like it was such a community effort. And it was a way for me to feel connected with my friends from all over the world without, me not having to leave my house, and I just think that sort of community aspect of it was a huge like part that played into it. And also like I got a lot of my favorite villagers on my first playthrough, which like never happens in Animal Crossing. So,
yeah,
that's why this game was so much fun for me. The 4 months that I spent playing this game every single day, at least once, is something that I will cherish in my memory banks for years to come once this is all said and done with. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, imperfect as it was, Animal Crossing New Horizons is head and shoulders my favorite game of the quarantine.
Game of the quarantine. Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, just overall, like publications and like the game industry as a whole, Animal Crossing was a lot of people's game of the year. Like it was just like you just said, it's like the perfect time to have that life simulator is when you can't live life and you have to simulate it. You know what I mean? Who's your favorite villager actually? Because you kept mentioning that, and I'm like, I didn't realize people had like favorite villagers that are recurring. Yeah. It's almost like Smash Brothers where you're like, man, I really hope they keep this guy in the game for the next one. Like I didn't know people were into the villagers that much.
Yeah, there's a whole like subsection of Animal Crossing content on like Twitch where people. So just to go a quick tangent, I won't make this too long. Animal Crossing New Horizons made it really easy to farm for villagers that you like, because in past Animal Crossing games, and even so in this game, you can still do it the classic way. Villagers will move in at random, and you don't really get a choice of who they are. And you technically still don't get a choice in this game. Like you can go the route of, like opening up a plot of land, and then every after a couple days, the land will be sold to an animal, and you won't know who that villager is until you look at the sign. But they added something called the island tour in this game, where you can go to an island, and if you have an open slot on your island, there will always be a villager there for you to talk to and potentially invite back to your island. Now you can repeat this process until you either A, find a villager that you like, or B, you give up and you just let the game, decide for you by chance. So there's hours of YouTube content and Twitch content of people just buying a crap ton of these islands with their bells. You have to buy tickets with in-game currency to like go to these island tours, to do this. And these islands have they have rare fruit, they have plants, they have other resources that you can use and, to buy off and sell. it's kind of like the Tortimer games in Animal Crossing New
Right.
Leaf, if you're familiar. So
Yeah.
so you can do that, and there's just hours of content of people just like buying these tickets, farming these like they're called Nook Miles, and there's just hours of them just farming those, buying tickets, and going to these islands. And if there's a villager that they don't like, they leave, and they just keep doing that over and over again until they get their favorite villager. I got my favorite villager within my first original 10 villagers. My favorite villager is Apollo the Eagle.
That guy's actually hype. I like that guy.
He is so cool. He's super grouchy. I like the way that the grumpy villagers sound because their voices are all deep and like distorted. And he's just a bald eagle that wears a vest, and he like loves race cars and stuff. Like, he's really cool. I got him once in another Animal Crossing game, and I didn't play the game for one day, and he immediately moved out, and I got super salty. So I was like, I'm afraid I'm never going to get him again, because I've only gotten him in like one other Animal Crossing game, and I had one last island spot I needed to fill, and he was the last villager that I got, and I popped off. I screamed so loud my mom thought I hurt myself. It was easily in a time period where there wasn't much to feel happy about. Like, that was like, yeah, this is going to get me through the rest of the day. Like, that was hype.
My favorite villager, I haven't really thought about this, but if I had to pick right now, my first time ever playing Animal Crossing, like the first guy that I remember getting in the game was Filbert. He's like a blue chipmunk.
Oh, he's a good one. Yeah.
And the funniest thing about him was that, like, you know how sometimes they just have like a phrase that they like to say, and maybe someone else taught them a phrase and then they just keep saying it. His was bucko. Yes. It was like everything bucko. It's like, what's up, bucko? And like, so I don't know why that just made an impression on me. And I've made sure, like, I've gotten him in almost every Animal Crossing I've played since. I'm like, oh, Filbert is here, bro. He's back.
Yeah, my I like all the bird like based animals. Like, if Apollo's not my favorite, it's Koop'd the penguin. He's one of my favorite ones. His I think his catchphrase is like brain freeze or something. Like,
that's hilarious.
He's really, really funny, and he's like an OG villager, so he's like one of my faves. But yeah,
I've said this before, but I just wish there was more you could do with the actual villagers. I feel like
I agree. Yeah, it's easily the worst part of the game. Like, the villagers are so lifeless in this game, but listen, it is what it is. Like, maybe they'll get it right with the next Animal Crossing. I have hope.
Yeah, facts. But yeah, with that, we have Kyle's Game of the Quarantine, Animal Crossing, New Horizons. I'm sure it's a lot of people's Game of the Quarantine. And yeah, if you want to hear mine and our Hungries, definitely check out last week's episode. Kyle, I know you have to go. Kyle is going to be streaming Breath of the Wild again tonight, so check out his Twitch stream. What's your Twitch again?
It is twitch.tv/KoopaNJ. I play Super Smash Bros. Ultimate sometimes with my friends, and I recently got into the habit of playing Breath of the Wild with friends because it's a lot of fun. The game's like a little too ominous for like
watching Kyle figure things out in that game is actually hilarious. I definitely recommend it. And
it definitely helps with like the ambient like tone of the game, like to have just friends there to talk to. So
yeah, and obviously, you also have a podcast, goes up every Saturday, right?
Yes, every Saturday, I host Koop'd Up. It is a podcast where I talk about things besides video games, such as, pop culture, television. I did an episode with one of my friends from high school. It was big on the Pokemon card craze right now. Me and Glenn have a couple of episodes in which we talk about, movies we watch. We did an in-depth breakdown of the Snyder Cut. So definitely check it out. It's at Koop'd Up, available wherever you get your podcasts, which is literally anywhere. So Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, the works.
Yes, ma'am. All right, buddy. Thank you again for joining me this week. How do you feel? You feel good? You
feel good
about your game of the quarantine, bro?
I do. I feel very confident about that. I was sitting on that topic for a couple days, so I came prepared. I came ready for the smoke.
Hype. All right, guys. Well, that's our episode for this week. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Goodbye, everybody.
Later.
Thank you, guys. See you next week. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. You can follow me on Twitter at Super Glentendo. The Glentendo Podcast is a weekly Nintendo/Smash community podcast. Our aim is to have galaxy brain conversations on all things Nintendo. If you like the show, please consider becoming a friendo and supporting on patreon.com/Glentendo. Friendos get early access to the show each Thursday. The show then becomes free to all the following Sunday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts right now and you actually like the show, please give us a good review. It helps boost our visibility so more people can find the show. This show is brought to you by our amazing producers, Naomi Eduardo, In a Yellow Flash, and the legendary Riz.